Hi there, Shabbat Shalom, Solel, Shabbat Shalom, Arlene, Shabbat Shalom, Ron. How are you?
I'm doing well. Shabbat Shalom to both of you. It's wonderful to meet again this way on Shabbos and celebrate with our congregation and our families a beautiful, peaceful Shabbat.
Always exciting to be here.
Okay, so let's begin, as we usually do, with lighting the Shabbat candles. And there have been so many times we've talked about what these candles mean to us, and especially as we're coming up between another holiday. We just had Purim, we've got Pesach on March 25th. I always think about lighting the candles of Yom Tov and saying that each one of these holidays brings us closer and closer to our community, to our tradition, and to God. So as we say, light the candles and say the blessings. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen.
Shabbat Shalom. So Ron, before we do anything else, we should get all warmed up with some songs. So what's the first song you've decided for us to sing this evening?
Well, Passover is coming up soon, and the best part of the story is usually at the end of the story, right? So I figured, why not start with the best part? Today we're going to go through Miriam's song, and at the very end we'll finish with Pharaoh. Pharaoh, give us a good overview of what happens on Passover. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing the song to the one which we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. And Miriam was a weaver of unique variety. The tapestry she wove was one which sang our history. With every strand and every thread she crafted her delight. And women touched her spirit and she danced toward the light. Oh, and the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one which we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. When Miriam stood upon the shores and gazed across the sea, the wonder of this miracle she soon came to believe. Whoever thought the sea would part and with an outstretched hand, and we would pass to freedom and march to promised land. Oh, and the women dancing with the timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing the song to the one which we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. And Miriam the prophet took the timbrel in her hand, and all the women followed her just as she had planned. And Miriam raised her voice in song and sang with praise and might. We've just lived through a miracle, we're gonna dance tonight. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing the song to the one which we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long.
I like that song, and I like what Miriam did.
One of my favorites that Debbie Freeman wrote, and it's International Women's Day on Monday, so it's very appropriate also to be singing this on the Shabbat.
Definitely.
All right, I'm going to tell you another story about Passover, and it's about a little girl named Hannah. And Hannah, she was 8 years old, and it was her job to do the 4 questions, to sing Ma Nishtana Halayla Hazeh. And she didn't want to do it. I mean, why did she have to do it? Just because she was 8 years old and the youngest, and she didn't like singing, and she didn't like being the one who was centered out. So she went up to her parents and she had another question. Not why is this night different, but why should she have to do this? What is the role that she plays in this? This story happened a long time ago. And her parents, they said, you know what, you better think about this. They didn't give her an explanation because they thought at 8 years old, she should figure it out herself. Go and sleep on it, Hannah. And that's exactly what Hannah did. And she went to bed. And she went to bed and she had a dream. Or maybe it wasn't a dream. But when she opened her eyes, she was in the middle of the desert. She was back some 3,000 years ago as her ancestors were fleeing from Egypt. And she was a little bit scared, but someone put their arm around her and said, Hannah, don't be scared. I'm your mother and I'll take care of you. And Hannah looked up and said, that's not my mother, but she kind of looks like my family. So Hannah said, well, she says she's my mother, so I'm going to ask her those questions. And she said to this woman who said she was her mother, okay, I have some questions. And I know that you're not supposed to be eating any bread products now. I don't understand why. And this woman said, you know, we had to leave Egypt in such a hurry. Can you see all the wheat on my back? I didn't have time to make bread to let it rise. We were fleeing from our lives. We were slaves, and the only kind of food we could have was this flour and water that was actually from the sweat on our backs. So that's why eating any kind of bread product is not something we can do. So Hannah thought, wow, they left in such a hurry. They must have been so scared. Of course they couldn't wait for their bread to rise. And then she thought about the next question. And she said, you know, I heard that you can only eat certain kinds of vegetables on Passover, but all other nights you can eat all vegetables. Why do you only eat bitter vegetables? Why do you only eat maror? That's really bitter. And this woman who said she was her mother said, well, slavery is bitter. The slavery of our people, of being enthralled to another ruler, that's a terrible way to live. It's bitterness, and we are not going to eat all kinds of things. We're only going to have to remember there was bitterness and hardship. And Hannah said, yeah, I guess the bitterness of the horseradish, yeah, that might make me think about how hard their lives were. And then kind of remembered the third question, the question about dipping food. And she said, you know, what's this thing about dipping food? And on other nights, we don't have to twice. And this woman said, we're free. When you're free, you can do what you want to do. You're not under anybody else's oppression. No one is pushing you down. So being able to dip twice, that's a sign of freedom. And then kind of remembered the last question, said, on all other nights, we have to eat sitting up. But on Passover, and the woman looked at her because she wasn't quite sure what that meant, but kind of went on to explain, on this holiday, we are told to lean back. And the woman scratched her head and said, holiday? Well, I guess when you're a slave, you're lucky to have any food, and you're sitting up straight and you're having your food. But when you're free people, you can relax and lean back and be comfortable because you're in your own country and you're free. And then kind of looked at the woman and said, I think I know you. And the woman smiled at her and said, you know, I think I know you. I am your great, 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 and many, 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 many great grandmothers. You are my descendants. And Hannah suddenly understood why it was she that was going to ask the 4 questions, because she was going to remember all of her ancestors, those who felt that oppression and those who were just told to remember it, so that they would remember their history and also understand that no one should ever be oppressed and no one should ever be held as a slave and no one should ever be denied the right to their religion. So Hannah started practicing those 4 questions, and she felt so honored to sing Manishtana on her Passover Seder, as I hope all of you will be honored and proud at your Seders. Hag Sameach Pesach.
What a beautiful story, Arlene. And hopefully that will help some of our young people understand why it is that they are the ones that have the honor to recite the 4 questions, Manishtana, on Pesach.
Okay, so Ron, do we have another Pesach song?
Yeah. The 4 questions are very important. It's also important to know the story of Passover, of course. Pharaoh goes over the story from Moses' perspective. Goes something like this. Oh, Pharaoh, whoa, baby, let my people go. Oh, I said, Pharaoh, whoa, baby, let my people go. Alright, just a part of the story today. A burning bush told me just the other day that I should go to Egypt and say, it's time to let my people be free. So listen to God if you won't listen to me. Oh, Pharaoh, whoa, baby, let my people go. Yeah, oh, I said, Pharaoh, whoa, baby, let my people go. Well, me and my people going to the Red Sea, with Pharaoh's army coming after me. I took my staff, I put it in the sand, and all of God's people walked on to dry land. Oh, I said, Pharaoh, whoa, baby, let my people go. Yeah, oh, I said, Pharaoh, whoa, baby, let my people go. Yeah, oh, I said, Pharaoh. Of course, there's more to this story, but we will continue as Passover comes to us.
Thank you, Ron. That's a great song and great way to remember what happens in the Pesach story.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the one thing we always have to do at our Friday night Kabbalat Shabbat service is we've got to remember there are lots of people who've had birthdays this past week. I know one of our teachers, Judy Miller. I think she's going to be either 28 or 29. What do you think, Rabbi? Somewhere in there. Yeah, something like that. She actually said she's got to take a year off because this past year doesn't count. So it may be 28. So let's sing happy birthday to Judy and to everybody else who's had a birthday this past week.
All right, and my mom's birthday is coming up on Sunday, so happy 80th, Mom.
Kanena Hora, that's lovely.
All right. Yom Huledek Sameach.
Woo!
Beautiful. Yom Huledek Sameach.
Woo!
Yom Huledek Sameach. Yom Huledek Sameach.
Woo! All right, so happy birthday to everybody. And Ron, you're going to be joining our junior grades this Sunday from 9:30 to 10:30 approximately, doing some Hanukkah music. And some Pesach music. I'm still, I'm losing time here. And we're really delighted to have you join our classes. And I know that a lot of the teachers are beginning to do the Manishtana, and they're sending out some cute little videos about Manishtana. There's some wonderful, wonderful things online, parents. If your teacher hasn't sent out a link, I can send it out to you for having your children practice the 4 questions. So please get ready for Pesach. And just to let everybody know, there are Passover foods at the Eglinton and Aaron Mills Loblaws so far. There may be other places, but that's the only one I know about at this point. So Rabbi, any announcements from you?
Well, we have a lot of things going on this month in the lead up to Pesach, and we hope you'll join us. And I hope that you're getting, as Arlene said, starting to do your Pesach cooking. I know it's we're starting to look at recipes and pull out our recipe books and make sure we have the right ingredients this year. Absolutely.
And Rabbi, you have a simcha coming up. Your daughter is becoming a bat mitzvah on March the 20th. So we wish Rachel, as she gets into that, the home stretch of her practicing, we wish her Yesher Koach. It's a tough go, especially when it's online, but we know she'll do really, really well.
And we're looking forward to celebrating with all of you.
Yeah. And it isn't quite the same, but it's still wonderful to celebrate as a community online. And we've had many, many commentaries because we've now started sending out our Pesach boxes to the school families. I wish we could send them out to everybody. And there's so many things in these boxes for the kids and the families to work on, and that the teachers will help you unbox in the next 2 or 3 Sundays. It's kind of nice that they moved the spring break. It gives us more time to prepare for Pesach. I think they did it just for the Jewish community, right?
Yes, everyone's
Maybe.
ecstatic.
All right. So a closing Zmira, Ron?
Of course. Just a quick tune first. I got too excited playing Miriam's song. All right. Oh, I said Hine Matov. See, now you guys at home, it's gonna be awkward if you leave it silent, so it's up to you. Oh, I said Hine Matov. Said Hu Manaim. You got it. Oh, I said Hine Matov. Said Hine Matov. Hu Manaim. Hu Manaim. I said Hine Matov. Hu Manaim. Javet Akim Gam Ya. Gonna keep it short and sweet today. Last one. Oh, I said Hine Matov. Hine Matov. Said Hu Manaim. Hu Manaim. I said Hine Matov. Hine Matov. I said Hu Manaim. Hu Manaim. I said Hine Matov. Hu Manaim. Shavet Akim Gam Ya. Hine Matov. Hu Manaim. Shavet Akim Gam Ya. Hine Matov. Hu Manaim. Shavet Akim Gam Ya. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Solel and Beit Sefer Solel.